Hello, it's Alex here, and it's that time of the day again where I attempt to formulate intelligent sounding sentences into video format. I was walking down the path here, sharing it with cyclists and joggers and other riverside paraphernalia, and I was aware of my awareness. I was aware of the fact that because I've got my headphones in particularly, I was conscious of the need to look around me and to make sure that I wasn't being knocked into by cyclists, and I would regularly look back and look around, and got me thinking that yes, having my headphones in might have prompted me to be more aware, to kind of make up for the fact that I was concerned for my lack of awareness. And it got me thinking about how so many of us live our lives and go through the day with an overload of data. There's a lot going on in our heads, and we can add all these layers of data and information to the purer level of what's actually going on around us. And so it's interesting to see that difference between how there are kind of two versions of reality that we can all experience. And most of us are in the world of accumulated data and information. We're lost in our minds, we're lost in our thoughts, we have subjective opinions of how everything is working around us. Someone's experience walking along the riverside can be completely different to someone else's who's in the same environment, but they can experience the experience very differently because of how they're interpreting things and how they're filtering all the data through. So you can have someone who's just been broken up with and is completely in their heads and is much more susceptible to being knocked over by a cyclist because they're not aware, because they have decided that in that moment it's preferential to focus on what's going on inside their heads, trying to control their lives through the prism of thinking and overthinking versus being alert and aware and conscious of what's actually going on in the real world. You see the difference. There's a huge difference between data clouded reality and pure reality. So I wanted to encourage some reflection on the idea of data subtraction as a habit to introduce more and more into our everyday, and how this is going to benefit you and improve your life and potentially save your life. I sound like a school first aid presenter to the kids. Take care of your personal safety and you can save a life. You might even be able to save your own life. So be careful, be safe. But seriously, there is something interesting to the whole acknowledging how we can be in our heads half the time, most of the time, and we are putting ourselves at a significant disadvantage when we're in our heads. And the irony of that is that we think we're at an advantage when we're worrying, when we're overthinking, when we're living in the world of dreams. It's essentially an illusion that most of us are living in. You walk past someone in the street, just look at what's going on with them. Sometimes they're talking to themselves. I've done that. They're not there, they're not in the same world as you. And this also reminds me of a chapter I read in the book by Robert Greene on the rapper 50 Cent. One of his life skills that he picked up in the ghetto, in the streets, was the need, the very pressing need, especially as a gangster, as a crack dealer. He needed to be especially vigilant of what was going on around him, otherwise he would end up dead through lack of care, lack of vigilance. So it might seem trivial when I talk about getting knocked over by a jogger on a pleasant afternoon like this, but in the world of gang warfare and the streets, this stuff becomes a lot more pressing. And what Robert Greene was talking about, that he had learned from 50 Cent, was the need to see things for what they are. The need to push away the curtain of perception and subjectivity, and to clear the windscreen of how you're experiencing life, so that the colors are brighter and the information is clearer and more objective. And that's a practice, that's a skill that I'm continually reminding myself of to work on, because first of all, if we can see things and we are biased to seeing things for what they are and not our dreamlike interpretation of, we're going to be far more resourceful, far more creative, far more happy, far more at peace. And this is especially valid for when life gets particularly chaotic. You can double, triple, quadruple the chaos you experience in your life by adding on all your own personal subjectivity layers to it. Perhaps there's a hurricane coming and you're putting yourself and your family at a tremendous disadvantage, because you're not only worrying about not only have you got a hurricane coming and that you need to prepare for it, you're also worrying about it. You're worrying about losing the house, you're getting sentimental, you're in the past, you're in your own personal insecurities, you're worried that you're not going to be a good enough father, all of this stuff is added complication to the fact of the matter that you've got to get your windows boarded up and you've got to stop, being in your head. So seeing things for what they are requires data subtraction. It requires living a minimalist life, but not so much in the sense of living on your mattress and having no furniture in your house. That's minimalist living. How about minimalist thinking, where you're constantly in the practice of seeing things for what they are and seeing things for the beauty that they are, and always reminding yourself, remembering and asking yourself the question, am I overly in my thoughts right now? Am I in the real world, or am I in my head? And this will constantly bring you back to the present. This will bring you back to the crystal clear awareness of the right effing now, as I've been known to say and write about. See what that does for you in terms of your emotional experience as you go through life. So first of all, you're going to feel better. You're not going to be wrapped up in sentimentality. You're not going to be wrapped up in personal insecurity as much, because you're here, you're right with everything as they are. So there's resourcefulness. More ideas are going to come to you through a stiller mind. A more practical, creative mind reveals itself when it's not hampered with cyclical, chaotic thoughts. And at the same time, you're going to be directly more practical, more aware, more conscious, more secure in your surroundings. You're going to be able to see what's going on. You're going to be able to make accurate interpretations of what's happening, as opposed to kind of clouded, confused interpretations, because you're seeing things as they are and you're biased to seeing things as they are. So an example of this would be, something that comes to mind is perhaps you're at maybe you're at a party and you've got friends who are talking and saying things that you're interpreting as is it the word malevolent? You're taking things personally because someone said something, or you heard on the grapevine that someone said this about you, and you're reacting and taking it personally, and you're just kind of operating at the level of illusion. You're not really seeing things for what they are. You don't know that's what they said. You don't know that there was some Chinese whispers going on, and that the information was skewed and people were drunk. And you're only going to dig yourself into a hole if you're operating at the level of assumption and interpreted, filtered data. The more you can take out of the equation, the more data you can subtract, the more information, as we live in this kind of information overload world, and the more crystal clear insight you have on what's actually going on, the better off you're going to be. So there's obviously a lot to unpack in this, or maybe not. Maybe it's just a simple idea, and it's all about your interpretation of the idea, isn't it? What I would say as a kind of call to action as we close off is experiment with bringing more conscious, real-time awareness into your life, and notice when you're drifting off into worry and overthinking, and notice how your impact, your efficiency as you go through the day, your emotional balance is shifted as you think these thoughts and as you lose yourself. And think about how at a practical level this kind of approach, this kind of thing as a habit is going to benefit your life. And try this out as you go out today. It's just see if you can bring more awareness and less judgment and less subjective opinion to the things around you. Notice how simple everything becomes. I will leave you with that, guys. I hope that was helpful. If you want to, you know, tell your mates about this channel, and you want to share this video, please do it, please. Do what you like. But make sure you're subscribed, if anything, and do like this video. And I will see you in the next video. Take care.